you are not a member of the press. And so, taking it from that aspect, I think it just tells you that Honorable Kena had nurtured a defeat and consequently anger when Otieno became the party president. And I think also the UPC did something very smart to choose Obote, to choose Otieno, because it would be very moral from Obote to Miria to Akena. It will just be the same thing. You know, we should begin creating
monarchy, and life goes on.
Yeah, that is a monarchy, but then you have the governance arm, which is right there with the premier. But we don't need to see parties moving from the father, the wife, and then the son. Then I am saying, if FDC starts running from Besije to Winnie, then to Ansley, it will be more. I don't want to see such a scenario. So, for UPC to stay on, they must understand that these differences can be sorted out at a round table. But the outburst that, I want to kick you because you've said I am not a party member,
but also
is unacceptable.
I think the problem is that Akena is struggling to find his
position within the party.
But he cannot join the movement.
He made a bicycle that can use Oraji.
Come on, where's the bicycle? He rides a motorbike. Parliament, not on the bike.
So we should acknowledge.
Otieno also should have prevailed.
No. But he said that it was a, if you put Otunu's credentials here and you brought Akena's here, the two are two different people. This is a brilliant diplomat, actually, who, if given an opportunity to lead this country, would reshape it. That's for sure. That's unquestionable.
It's a very long season.
Yes, but back to this business of infights,
Go on.
This business of infighting within parties. This is why Museveni is also suffering. Why? Because he has run this country basically on a family lineage, and he has run the country on patronage that is linked to what I would call the Chwezi dynasty. This is it. And he wants to create that kind of protectorate within the Great Lakes region.
But
and this is the difference that we are having now, and it's a very difficult situation. Any party who is trying to create an impression that from me to my wife to my son will run Uganda, please, times have changed.
We have to move forward. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we are reviewing the week.
I want to hear that.
You can send in your contribution. All you do is type the word Spectrum on your phone browser, your message, question or comment, and send it to 7197. You might not be able to call in tonight, but you can send us a text message, Spectrum space message 7197. Honorable Sebalu, KCCA Executive Director, wants 43 million shillings only for salary once a month.
I like that, please.
Only once a month.
And remember, she was given the leeway to determine her own salary.
No, I think that is not a very good development in my view. And I think the whole idea of getting a neutral body determining salaries for senior leaders of this country is long overdue. I think that is what needs to be done to avoid different organizations setting different rates, which could create problems in terms of equity and in terms of linking rewards or remuneration to productivity. So I think we need to get a scientific way of arriving at the levels of remuneration for different public and other officers of this country, to do it in a manner that is equitable and that is free of self-interest, so that at the end of the day the Ugandan people will know that this was arrived at by a neutral body considering scientific ways of arriving at those decisions. So I agree with the Parliament when it comes out to say, look, this is not fair, and telling the lady to explain herself. The work she's doing is good, but I think putting it at that level of remuneration is rather on the high side, given the challenges that we are going through as a country and the Kampala City Authority itself in particular.
How would you constitute that body to set salaries for everyone?
Yeah, I think there are best practices to pick from. There are different jurisdictions, and these institutions have been created in different places. Once the principle is agreed that we need a neutral body to do that, then you can institute a study.
How would you institute it, for instance? If you are a public service commission, how would you do it?
You could give that work to public service commission to use their technical expertise and be able to compare notes with the other similar organizations that deal with remuneration of public servants, and be able to come up with best practices. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are other areas
just
where
did some work to that effect.
Yeah.
Actually, the country in itself, in general, needs a real pay review, and public service pay structure needs to be reviewed comprehensively. Because if the executive director is asking for 43 million shillings per month, does this exclude allowances? Is she off a KCC house? And what other items are included in this pay structure that she's proposing for herself? And
let's assume it's gross.
Does this also include the risk factors and so forth? That we as Parliament have been accused of determining our own pay, which I totally agree with. We don't need to determine our own pay. Somebody out there should sit and say, this is the workload of an MP, this is what it requires, and they should propose that this is how an MP should be paid. But this lady was given a leeway to say, you see, you can determine your own pay structure. And also, don't forget that she was working with the Revenue Authority. Probably she wants to be paid.
What does the law say about her remuneration? Does it leave it open, or?
It does give the minister in charge of Kampala the powers. Yeah. The KCCA Act gives the minister for Kampala, or the minister in charge of Kampala, the powers to determine the emoluments of people who work at KCCA.
Because it doesn't make any reference to
43 million shillings here.
No.
43 million shillings at a time when the economy is staggering. That means basically, we've pushed out the minister for education.
Because I think to be fair to the KCCA director, I do understand where she's coming from. That and see, I agree with Honorable here that the public service pay structure needs to be reviewed comprehensively across board, because it is sickening to see political appointees like the IGG, like the AG, earning obscene amount of money, while the common person, the teacher in the village, the policeman on the road, is earning a paltry sum of money. So I think that these are just reactions to the obscenities by people in political offices. I mean, an MP gets over 23 million shillings a month.
That's not true.
The evidence presented in court, the payslip for one MP indicated that she got 23 million shillings a month.
Of course, depending on the distance from the capital.
A month. So I think that the obscenities by people in political offices is provoking such reactions as you see from Madame Osisi. I have no doubt that she's doing a good job, and if you want good people, you must pay for it. But the payment must be reflective of the general trend in the public service across the country.
How much do you think she should get?
I do think that 15 million shillings is enough for her office, including all allowances.
Net or gross?
Including all allowances, net.
Yeah, because how far, for example, how big is this city? Because when you have reached not even up to Gayaza, somewhere there's that.
You're already across the bound.
So why do you want that kind of...
Because I also do think
the depth of the work involved. Because, like, for instance, these stories you are getting around some of these properties and some of the business interests, it could easily compromise someone. So you really need to motivate someone, insulate them against some of these...
I see, the other thing, of course, is that the truth is, if you want good people, you must pay for them. Because if you don't, you wonder Abia, if she's out of parliament, cannot be AD of KCCA.
And even being a good person, you need also the environment to allow you deliver optimally. So motivation really,
obviously, there's no question about
the levels of motivation are
still high.
We are questioning.
Okay, maybe the debate will continue.
If they could have this for her, I wouldn't mind.
Half of it.
But really, 43, when a teacher, after a primary school teacher, will get about 250,000 after tax, you see? And this is an equivalent of about, if you are in a Jumani as I speak, where a kilogram of sugar is 10,000 shillings.
Really?
You are talking about 20 kilograms of sugar.
For
And you know, what even makes it disturbing is that you just add 7 and it is 50. You know, 50 really sounds a lifetime kind of fortune.
Well, I know CEOs, some CEOs in the world and in other places who earn $200,000 a month. Let's talk about some
commensurate to their economies.
Some companies have bigger economies than Africa. Than regions, entire regions. Maybe not Africa, but entire regions.
So when such a guy earns,
BP is bigger than
100 million
than South Africa's economy.
Why not go play football?
Those people, when they talk about presidents being presidents of companies, those are real presidents.
But
we could call them excellence. Let's move forward.
Even the productivity levels, because when he earns that, he has to look at his contribution in terms of the returns on the investment of the company.
Right.
You'll still find it in those levels.
Honorable Sebalu, you are a diplomat. Let's talk about regional security. And President Isaias Afwerki was here. Why did President Isaias come?
That is a very, very interesting question and observation. Definitely, President Isaias was in town.
That's they start with a surname in the
was in town, and it is the timing is quite an interesting bit. You know, when you see him in town at a time when Al-Shabaab is on the retreat, on the run, where there are allegations that he was bankrolling the same, and more so given that there was the monitoring group and the arrangement to isolate that leader. It's a very interesting development, but one thing that we need to appreciate is that whatever the reasons for his coming are, I take them in good light, because it is good for the regional the regional security when you have that engagement. Whether there are issues diplomatically behind the curtain, it's important for someone coming out of isolation and engaging, so that you get this kind of debate. You can recall that he was able to put it on the table that he's never supported terrorism. He's not been behind that. That debate alone, or his position on terrorism and Al-Shabaab coming out publicly, is something that can be used positively to create stability and engage at a level that will be much more positive in terms of peace and security in the region, because the Horn of Africa is dicey, and it is an area that needs to be handled at all levels and in every way possible to ensure that engagement is productive in terms of the peace agenda.
Of course, like you said, it's dicey. There's the issue of Puntland, which declared independence in 1991 from
all those dynamics are
and today China said they're going to give them a large amount of money to build, among other things, an oil port and an oil refinery. So, Honorable Abia, is President Museveni spreading his wings, trying to up his influence in the region? You've seen Kenyan leaders coming here and other things.
Politics is a very interesting scenario to study. First of all, you should look at the American interest in the Horn of Africa to fight terrorism. And who is the ally in the region? It's the East African, the Great Lakes region. It is indeed the President Museveni.
Yes.
And then you ask, what is the President's interest there? Because he needs the American dollar to finance part of the budget. That is granted.
The Ugandan budget?
Yeah, part of the Ugandan budget. That's true. And the Americans, after losing Syria...
But President Museveni also has a track record as a freedom fighter, doesn't he?
Of course he has a track record
ideological leaning.
He's a Pan-Africanist. You can't take that away from him.
He's a Pan-Africanist, fine. But the other thing is, don't forget, countries use their military strength as an indirect show. Dare me, I will show you touch.
Right.
So you see these forces comparing notes, even at any of the peacekeeping missions. So that does happen. And so when this president visits, when and where the confirmations that he is, as Mike said, bankrolling the Al-Shabaab, and now that things are getting hot, probably he wants to confirm that he has not been financing them, and as a result is coming to the big brother, big boy, that you see, for me, it is not me, I'm not doing those things.
Yes,
so it's the kids' play. So he has come for this.
Otherwise, it might be out of it.
Yeah,
but that is also good for the region.
It is good for the region in a way that he has come, that my friend, I'm getting defeated here, I need your support. When the Al-Shabaab was very high and hard in Somalia, why didn't he come at that time?
Maybe he's come to the press conference.
Well, the president of Eritrea comes here on the backdrop of two major events.
Who invited him? Who invited him?
I mean,
he invited himself, or
I don't know who invited him, but I think that he comes here on the backdrop.
The thing is that he was in
here. He comes here on the backdrop of two major events. A major UN report indicating that his government was bankrolling Al-Shabaab. The second one is the massive truckload withdrawal of Al-Shabaab from Mogadishu.
Yes.
These two events are significant in explaining why the president had to come to Uganda.
Explain to us.
Because first and foremost, it underlies Uganda's role in the Horn of African politics. The Honorable Abia, in very mild terms, put it that President Museveni is the agent of the Americans, in the Horn of Africa.
It's probably broader than that.
I think it is. But I do think that it does underline President Museveni's role in the Horn of Africa politics. Secondly, I do think that if he indeed had been supporting the Al-Shabaab, it is now time for him to come out of his shell in the face of the imminent defeat of the Al-Shabaab in Somalia.
Right.
And I do think that's what brought him here. Period.
To try and shift
from the Al-Shabaab area to a pro-US arena. So I think that's why he came here. But also, I think, thirdly, the Al-Shabaab withdrawal from Mogadishu should not be looked at in light of a victory.
No.
Yes.
I do think that the famine in the region played a very key role in Al-Shabaab's decision to retreat. Remember, they retreated, they were not defeated. They got the trucks and left.
Their food bags are
left. And that in itself is
and also that is confirmed by the fact that the areas that were hardest hit by famine are the areas that were heavily controlled by the Al-Shabaab.
But when you're planning a struggle like that,
you have to stock up on
that level, even getting you to that level of running out of supplies in terms of food is a defeat in itself. Whatever it is, because the engagement there is the same terrain, and there must be supply lines. But one thing we need to appreciate really is that
production was very central
it could be, but then someone uses it against you. Whatever one uses against you, and it puts you in a distance. Definitely, because there's a defeat. But the central role of President Museveni in stabilizing the region is not necessarily agency, because there are things you do which are in your interest. Because definitely it is in our interest as a region to have a stable Horn of Africa and the neighborhood. And if someone has, and if someone is
that Uganda gains from,
it is not. It is the peace, definitely, because that is the potential market. Given that they get drought and Al-Shabaab, so even the whole aspect of partnership at any level, from the Pan-African point of view, it is something.
I don't think it's just entirely about President Museveni's ideology about being a Pan-Africanist. No, I do think that he did it to ally with the U.S. in order for the U.S. to do to do what they did to the guy of Pakistan. That even in the face of bad governance, in the face of abuse of human rights, you can afford to turn a blind eye if you serve U.S. interests in the Horn of Africa.
Let's move forward. Libya.
But you mean the peace is not?
Okay, let's move forward.
To underscore.
Let's talk about
for peace in the region, and someone coming out to ensure that there is peace. Always get ways of getting other reasons, and we jump away from the issue. That is paramount for any country.
Libya, the rebels have taken Zawiya. They've taken the oil port, the oil refinery in Zawiya, very close to Somalia, to Libya, to Tripoli. They've cut the supply lines towards Tunisia. What is likely to happen? Gaddafi's days seem to be numbered.
Definitely, the entry of NATO in Libya came with the protection of civilians, but definitely it changed to a regime change. and
it's not just NATO, actually. It does include Qatar, it does include UAE.
No, what I'm saying
so it's beyond just the NATO alliance.
The NATO, but the NATO is the one doing this thing.
Okay.
You know, they are doing the firepower from aerial firepower.
There are 7 jets from Qatar.
These guys just walk in to take over territory that has been already.
Is that a good thing or a bad? Or will you miss Gaddafi when he goes? In case he goes.
Well, I'm not too sure about that. But one thing is that I'm a bit disturbed by NATO. Like the other day, they killed about 85 people. Okay, no remorse, no nothing. I think they are doing a good job for the rebels, but I think they're not.
This man has gone. Seems to be
if Gaddafi went today, I would certainly be happy.
You would call a party in your gardens at home?
I would be happy because the human rights records and then also the way he has managed that country. For the first 20 years, he did a very commendable job. 6 million people today, they were happy, they had almost everything except freedom.
Yes.
You see, once you bottle up people, the day that bottle explodes, you will never get the crystals.
Right.
So it's probably that he lives. And one more painful thing is, after 40 years, you begin losing your children just because you must stay on.
41 years.
That level of immorality is unacceptable.
But what about who kills your children?
Mr. Nicolas Opiyo.
What about one who kills your children?
It
is also immoral to kill my children.
The exit of any African leader who has served his country for more than a decade, for me, is a good thing. I think it sends a huge signal to everybody who is hanging on to power that there's got to be a limit. Yeah. There's got to be some measure of peaceful transition of government.
Is that a domestic warning?
Well, we have to move forward. We have some.
I'll trust to that.
We have some text messages that came in.
Maybe
let me read them out.
Stayed there for long without the people's mandate. You should qualify.
Okay, we have a message from Julie Tendo. Julie Tendo sent a message saying, does sugarcane only grow in Mabira? I beg the president, leave the forest alone or else it doesn't, and it stops there. We have another message from William. He says, surely the Mafavis and Semujus have themselves to blame. What business does an MP have to do where they were at the time when Parliament is meeting? Then Damali sends a message, Opiyo, the views of you who think like you don't constitute national consensus, we who want in government but who agree that Mabira should go for, well, we missed a part of that, but we have to end here. I must thank our guests. That's what many people seem to think. I must thank our guests, Honorable Mike Sebalu, member of the NRM NEC, very staunch NRM, both during daytime and at night. He wears yellow.
I'm told that they're getting millions of shillings to...
Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir. Honorable Christine Bakko, Abia, Arua District Woman MP. Today she was very, very moderate. There were no fire sparks flying across the table. And Mr. Nicolas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL. Thank you for coming to Spectrum. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Cheese. To have a very blessed weekend. Up next is in the news in English.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss money, location, and time frame.